After I married Alan in 1965, Alan was already in the Air Force, so within a year of being married he was posted out to Berlin, and then I went out to join him. Alan came and picked me up to drive me out to Berlin when we were first posted there, and we had to go through all of the checkpoints from the west into the east, through the Russian checkpoints and everything, and it was the first time in my life I had ever seen anybody with a gun. You have to have paperwork to go through, a BTD it's called, and it gives your name, your passport number and your details, and you have to hand it in to the Russians, who check it all out and allow you to pass. The border between East and West and then Berlin is 100 miles, so you had to drive 100 miles down the corridor, as it's called, till you got to the checkpoint at the other side. And you're timed going through to make sure that you don't make any little detours or anything like that. And it was all a little bit scary the first time that you did it. After that it was easy. Royal Air Force Gatow was like a little miniature city. We had our own navvy, which sold all English food and things like that. Because of what happened during the airlift when they blockaded everything, Berlin always had to have a certain amount of food in there to feed the military. But of course food has a shelf life. So after its shelf life was ending, we as families were allowed to buy it quite cheaply. So I could buy rump steak and things that I could never afford back in England. But also we were able to go to the American equivalent of the navvy, which was the PX, or the French equivalent, which was called the Economat. And we could buy American food and goods, and the same with the French place as well. French bread, which was all freshly made. And also we could eat in like their equivalent of the navvy, the navvy sticky bun bar, or you could go to the Economat, which is where we first tried snails and frog's legs and goodies like that. I was always allowed to go across the other side while we lived there, and you could watch the guards do their little changeover, doing the goose step. That was always very interesting. And also we could go shopping there, and that was even better because we exchanged our Deutschmarks 4 for 1. But we were always told, don't buy food because it's scarce. Beside the wall, this where people had tried to get across, there's little crosses and flowers and things and little mementos, you know, all the way along. So people did try to get across often. The only thing that you ever heard were the planes going through the sound barrier, the noise, and the well, you could feel it through your feet sometimes as well. They were that loud, you know. We used to take the children down to on not exactly the edge of the runways, but on the edge of the camp. Because we were right on the edge of the fence, there was a lovely little old German lady lived behind there, and she used to fill up the children's paddling pool. She used to poke a hose pipe through the fence, and we used to fill up the paddling pool. And they were all very nice and very chatty. And this little old lady told us one day, don't let your children play over there because there's a lot of dead bodies buried over there from the war. So they were still very conscious, and a lot of them told us stories about what it was like during the war and just after the war. The ordinary people are lovely and never want any of this conflict that's going on in the world, that it's all the fault of politicians. If they let the ordinary people speak to each other, things would be sorted out far quicker and better.